Beauty means not just outside, but also feeling beautiful on the inside. I think that is the most important because when you don't feel beautiful on the inside, it's going to show on the outside. So I want my patients to feel like their most beautiful version of themselves from within.
Welcome to the Beauty Talk podcast, where we feature how the best medical practitioners help their patients to look better, younger, and healthier. Now, enjoy the show, and here's your host.
Daniel Gao here. I'm the host of Beauty Talk. We feature the top medical practitioners in health and beauty, both inside and out. I have Catherine No, who spent 11 years as a bedside med-surg RN before earning her NP license and transitioning into hospice and family medicine. But during the COVID-19 pandemic, after wearing masks during long shifts, she developed stubborn acne that really affected her confidence. That was when she discovered the world of dermatology and aesthetics. Through treatments that helped heal her skin, she also found her self-confidence again, and this ignited her passion for aesthetics and wanting to help other women feel confident in their own skin again. She began training in aesthetics and, with the support of her husband, launched her business in a small solo suite with one other injector. She quickly grew into 2 solo suites and eventually expanded into a larger storefront. So, Catherine, welcome and glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
inviting me.
Yeah, so let's start here, Catherine. How did you first get interested in? Let's start with the medical field, the kind of the broad medical. How did you get interested in medical field?
So I actually, I went into college not knowing what kind of career I wanted for myself. I kept switching majors from major to one major to another. And then I had my daughter at an early age. So I had her at 19. And that was a scary moment for me. Like I was like, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to take care of this kid? So when I took her to her primary care provider, she happened to be a nurse practitioner. And when any questions that I had for her, she really took the time to educate me
Mhm.
and, like listen to me. And I was like, wow, I'm really inspired by this person and I want to become this person. I want to be able to help others. So that's how I started my like nursing career.
Mhm. Okay, and then kind of introduction, it was basically starting as a nurse, working in the hospital, and then from there, because of the of getting all that acne, then that was got you into aesthetics. So,
Yes.
but can you kind of talk a little bit more through that journey, like kind of what you go through during that time period, and then like from there, I know it sparked your interest in aesthetics, but then from there, what made you decide that okay, this is the thing that you really want to do?
I think getting back that confidence in me when I was going through that journey of like acne, like we were in the age of filters. If you
Mhm.
remember back then, the Snapchat, the Instagram filters, I would not post any videos of myself unless there's a filter of myself on there, right? Or I wouldn't go out the house without wearing makeup. Or sometimes even with my husband, like sometimes I would cover my acne,
Mhm.
even when I'm around him, even at home.
Mhm.
So when I entered the dermatology world and aesthetics and just like figuring out all the treatments that didn't work for me, or finally when it did work for me, I was like, and then I got that confidence back. I was like, this is something that I really want to do because I know there's women out there, even if it's not acne, if it's other concerns, like I want them to feel confident in themselves. And that's how I got into the aesthetic journey.
Got it. And
Yeah.
then what led you to want to start your own practice? I mean, why not just work for another practice?
So, our friend circle, they all have businesses. And my husband and I, we've always wanted a business of our own, something that we can pass on to our kids if that's something that they choose to follow with us. But we didn't know what to do. My husband's in IT and I'm in the medical field. Like, how do we combine this? And then our roles kind of collided when he started working for Allergan. So he was on their IT team. I think he worked for their Botox Day or like the Alley program that they had. And then it just made sense when I started doing aesthetics too. And I was like, wait, this can work. Like we can put together a med spa that we had our vision of what I wanted to do, with to help other people, and we can make this work. And that's why we created Callista Aesthetics.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And now that you have this practice, I want to talk about some of the treatments that you provide to your clients. I want to talk a little bit more about lower face balancing,
Mhm.
which I think some people have kind of heard of facial balancing, but I think a lot of people don't know what it is. And yours specifically is lower face balance. So let's start with this. What is facial balancing? Let's start there.
So facial balancing is not just looking at like one area of the face. We look at a flaw that a patient comes in with, like they come in with a concern, and we don't just treat that concern. We look at the whole facial anatomy, why this occurred, and then we create a treatment plan using different treatments that we have in order to balance out, looking at the proportions, to help them to create a more natural aesthetics.
Mhm. Okay. And so
Yeah.
with the lower face, then what's kind of difference? I mean, I'm assuming it's just like kind of this section of the face, but I guess
Yeah.
is that true, or am I just like totally off?
So lower face balance kind of came for me because of two things. When we started out doing aesthetics, lips was very popular back then. And then a lot of my patients at the time as well didn't allow a full face treatment, like a full face posting on social media. It was always like cut off half the face.
Mhm.
So because of that, every time someone came in for lip filler, at a certain point, you can't keep filling the lips.
Mhm.
And we have to discuss like what is going to make your lower face more balanced. And we can't just overfill that area. So we look at the chin, the side profile, the jawline structure. And it was the area that, because I always treated the lips and I treated the other areas in the lower face, that was everything that I put on my social media. And that just became like a popular thing that everyone came in for. They're like, now I want to look lower face. But of course, when they come in, I look at their full face anatomy, and we do treat the upper face too, but it's because of those two reasons, the lips and most of my patients don't allow a full face posting, that lower face balance became really popular for us.
Got it. Okay. And so when it comes to lower face, what are the areas that are typically covered? Is it really just the lips and maybe like the jawline, or you kind of also do kind of like a little bit high, like under the eyes?
Yeah, so for lower face, mostly is lips, the chin, looking at the jowls, the jawline structure. But then, yeah, that's not the only thing that we treat. We'll go up into the mid face because you want to create like restore volume in the mid face too. Sometimes that helps to give more structure in the lower face. So it is really looking at everything. It was just a popular thing that we do here.
Got it. Okay. And so now, for someone who is looking for your type of help, in what situations would they be in? Is it just like they feel like they want to have more volume to their lips, or do they want to, they have wrinkles and they want to get rid of the wrinkles, or they just want kind of more of a glow, or is it kind of like an all the above? Like, in what situations would this really be the best fit?
For me, I think it's just most of the time they come in, they're just like, I feel like my face is starting to sag,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Or like, yeah, so most of the time that's what they come in for. Like if their face is starting to sag, what can you do to help me, to make me feel like this can be tighter in
Hmm.
the so that's where we come up with a plan, whether it's fillers, neurotoxin, or doing regenerative medicine like Sculptra
Hmm.
in the lower face to help, restore that balance and to help tighten that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to be dependent on the individual, but typically, how many treatments do they need to get before they're going to start seeing some type of improvement, like visible improvement?
Most of the time is 1 to 2 sessions when it comes to the lower face.
Mhm.
But what I always tell my patients is when they come in is I want this to be a long-term relationship. You know, um, I want to create a plan that is going to last you for the next 6 months to a year. I don't like to jump into things um, too fast. Like I like to have you come back, reassess, and then we can reevaluate that plan. The only time that, it can take 1 to 2 treatments is if they have an event coming up. A lot of my patients wait last minute until their wedding or something like that, like my brides. But most of the time I tell my patients, let's take it slowly. I want to see, if the first session, how you heal, how everything settles. And then we can always reassess and then redo the treatment plan if needed.
Mm.
So that's how I approach taking care of our patients.
Got it. Okay. And I want to talk about that approach. You mentioned the word approach, like how do you approach taking care of the patients? What is your philosophy on that overall approach as you're guiding people through their aesthetic journey? Because I'm sure people come to you and they have a very clear idea in their mind of what they want. I'm sure you have others, they have no idea, but like, I just want to look better. So
Yeah.
can you talk more about how you take that approach to helping people through that journey?
So how I approach it is just thinking back at how I started in aesthetics, right? When someone comes in with a flaw or concern that they have, they're in a very vulnerable situation. They're sharing with you their concerns and their insecurity, and you're a stranger to them. Even though you're a provider that have been following for a while, you're still a stranger to them. So I really try to figure out what I can do, what plan I can create to bring back that confidence in them. And that's why I create a treatment plan. And when it comes to my treatment plan, we are a small practice. We don't provide everything in the toolbox. So my treatment plan may not always be everything that we have. Sometimes I'll be like, hey, maybe this other treatment, because we don't have any machines too. So maybe this treatment might be a better option for you, or it can work alongside with what we have planned for you. So that's how I approach with my patients. Like I want the best result for them. And it might not just be with me, it might be with another provider from another practice, or, with like if it's acne with another dermatologist. So we work alongside other people. And I don't mind doing that. Like I'd rather do that and make sure that they get the outcome that they want and just not hoard that patient to myself and then they don't get the outcome that they are looking for.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. Now, when it comes to misconceptions or myths, what would you say some of the most common misconceptions or myths that you hear from your patients about the type of treatments that you offer?
I think right now the trend is like this fear mongering when it comes to fillers.
Hmm.
Now every time a patient comes, they're like, I don't want fillers. I don't want it to migrate. I don't want my face to be puffy and everything. And then I always tell my patients, like, I have like a few before and after pictures that I always show my patients. I'm like, imagine this patient. This person had this done, like it's a lot. It's like a long list of things that's done. Imagine what that person looks like in your head, right? And then they always be like, but they always start off with, "Oh my God, that just seems so extreme." And then I show them the before and after, and they're like, "Wow, that actually looks very natural."
Hmm.
So I tell them like people have this fear because I don't know why it got spread, to be honest, like why it got spread a lot out on the internet. But if it's done in the right hands and with the right technique, and to do it slowly over time, you can get really good results with it. And I always tell my patients I have like 13 syringes of filler in my face,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you just have to approach it slowly and also listen to your providers when they say no.
Hmm.
Like there are times when I say no and they're unhappy. They come with like an expectation of something is going to get done that day. And then I say no, just listen to them. There's a reason why they say it,
Hmm.
because I'd rather say no than do something and they come back and there's a problem that I already anticipated that was going to happen.
Yeah, and that's a very important point you bring up, being able to tell people no. I think if anything, that actually should garner more trust in a provider if they tell you no, because it's a very
Mhm.
good reason they're saying no. More
Yeah.
than someone that's just going to try and sell you and get you on whatever you want, and even if what's going to help you or not.
Yeah, and I think when I first started the industry, definitely it was harder to say no because you were new.
Yeah.
You just stepped foot in that industry. But now, as I'm doing this longer, I'm like, it's easier to say no than to say yes. And
Mhm.
then when the complications happen, then you're like, darn, I wish I had said no earlier.
Okay. And
Yeah.
talking more about kind of like being able to trust the provider who's helping you with this. If someone's looking for that provider, they're looking for some type of aesthetic treatment, but they just don't know anyone in the space, what advice would you give to that person as they're doing their search? And they're trying to find that provider that's a good fit, who is knowledgeable, who's ethical, and who can just get them the results they're looking for.
I think that's what our branding is all about. When I created Callista, was that, there's a lot of like, it's all about social media. There's a lot of memes, trends that we have to follow in order to get engagement, in order to get more followers, in order to like see our med spa. But I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of step out of that and bring more medicine into this field.
Mm.
I went to a training with a doctor in Atlanta, and she really like made me realize like, hey, this aesthetic industry is not all about beauty. Like there's medical to this, and we need to bring it back to the patient. So I think for patients looking for a provider, look for a provider that's serious about this. Like they really go to trainings. They really educate even online, because then that means when you come into the practice, they'll educate you too. I think that's really important.
Okay. Now, I
Yeah.
want to look on the potential red flag side, particularly for product, because I mean, when it comes to product that you're putting in someone's face, you want it
Yeah.
to be FDA approved, you want it to be the highest level of quality, but that's not always the case. From what I understand, you can buy Botox on Amazon or maybe even Temu or something like that.
Yeah.
So, is that something that the consumer should be aware of or concerned about? And if so, what can they do to try and minimize that risk?
I think right now we are in a space like I'm in Orange County, so there is plenty of med spas around us, right? And we have a lot of price shoppers, right? And in this economy is understandable, but cheap does not mean it's always better,
Mhm.
right? So you can always like if you were coming to a practice, you can always ask them to show you, what product they're using. Ask about the product. Even microneedling, ask what kind of microneedling device is being used, because you hear stories of like HIV being spread around because it's not safe practice. It's not an FDA approved product or anything like that. So just you can ask. It's okay to ask the provider what product is being used, what device is being used, what their protocol is.
Mhm.
But yeah, I it's kind of hard because we're in a space where it's either we price correctly, or we cut corners
Mhm.
to get those patients.
Mhm.
And it's actually a scary time right now.
Yeah.
Because yes, I get a DM in my Instagram all the time to buy these products for cheaper. And it's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the bottom line is that if something is too cheap to be true or too good to be true, it
Yeah.
probably is. There's some
Mhm.
question about it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Now, Catherine, earlier when you were talking about how you approach treatment and all that, it sounded like it's very customized, like individual by individual. So, how important do you think it is to have creativity, or what role does creativity play in how you approach your patient care?
Yeah, so every provider has their imagination of what they want to do for that patient, right? So anytime you go to an injector, they might have a different plan than what another injector might have for them. So there is a lot of creativity in that. Even at Callista, we have another injector as well, and her plan might be a little bit different from mine. We try to approach patients the same way, but everyone has their uniqueness, and everyone has what their vision of beauty looks like. So there is some creativity there,
Okay.
for
And what
sure.
about having artistic eye? How important is it to have an artistic eye?
It's very important because you can go from one provider who thinks that like all like like these big lips or like these full cheeks are like so beautiful, and then another provider who's like very natural, very subtle results. So definitely the aesthetic eye is also in the eye of the aesthetic injector. So you have to really vet your injector to see what they post, if that's the result that you want to have for yourself as
Mhm.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's on that one as well.
Yeah.
Catherine, throughout your experience, I'm sure that there's maybe some stories or cases that are very memorable, whether because they were challenging or they just stood out in your mind. Is maybe one story that you can share of just a memorable case and how you were able to get them a successful outcome in
I think I think a lot of our patients are like the average moms out there. They come in, they're like, I think all those kind of cases really get to me because, they come in, they're like, I just feel tired, I don't feel seen. I'm just like, I feel like I'm just a mom and I want to feel beautiful, right? And just to be able to create a plan and hold their hand for the next 1 to 2 years, and then being able to share back their before and their after result and showing them that, wow, we were able to get to this, to this result and seeing their, just like their face is like, oh my God, that's what I used to look like. And this is what I look like now. I think I love seeing that kind of reaction from our patients.
Yeah, and I think it's
Yeah.
also important to stress that because I think when the average person thinks about the aesthetics industry, it's like, oh, it's just about vanity and that's about it. But
Yeah.
when it comes to all the memorable stories, like the reason providers do this is because it's most of their patients come in and they just don't feel like their best selves and they just want to feel just a better version of themselves. Like they don't want to be the most
Exactly.
beautiful person in the world. They just want to be a better version of themselves. And just when they
Yeah.
get that, their confidence just soars. And I think that's the piece that's missing from this. It's not about vanity, it's about confidence.
I think that's actually our why we named our Mesbah Callista, because in Greek it means most beautiful.
Mhm.
So our goal is just to help patients feel the most beautiful version of themselves. And
Yeah,
that's exactly why we created our med spa, actually.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. So,
Mm.
Catherine, where do you think the future of aesthetics is going?
I think aesthetics will always have a place. There's always going to be people who want to feel more beautiful and feel more confident. I just think that I'm hoping that it'll go to the more natural looking results. Went from like snatch result where everything is just like injecting filler after filler. And I think now is more of like regenerative medicine, restoring collagen, stuff like that. And I like where this is going more
Mhm.
because is taking away patients wanting to look like the filters,
Mm.
and it's just a better version of themselves instead now.
You alluded to this earlier on, but people looking for a little bit more of a natural look. Do you think that's kind of the wave right now of people wanting that more natural look? And then I guess by extension, wanting more natural treatments?
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, I think definitely a lot of our patients coming in now, they're like, I want to look as natural as possible. I just want to look a little bit more enhanced, but
Mhm.
still look natural. I
Mm.
think before that wasn't the case, like 3 or 4 years ago when I first started, that wasn't the case, though. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, with your practice, Callista Aesthetics, what's your vision for the practice? I know you kind of started off in just one room and then you've grown since then, but like, what's your vision for your practice?
We always want to expand. Right now we got a space that is a lot bigger than what we were even looking for. So there's definitely more room to expand. And just bringing in more treatments. We look at what our patients are looking for, and then we kind of put together a treatment that, we can bring in to help with that.
Mhm.
And just bring in providers that have the same vision as us, and then also expand to more locations, of course.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Catherine, this is great. I do have one last question for you, but
Yeah.
before I ask it, I want to point people to your website at callistamedspa.com.
Yes.
Now, last question for you, Catherine. What does beauty mean to you?
Beauty means not just outside, but also feeling beautiful on the inside. I think that is the most important because when you don't feel beautiful on the inside, it's going to show on the outside. So I want my patients to feel like their most beautiful version of themselves from within.
Awesome. Great answer. Well, there
Yeah.
you have it. Catherine sharing expertise. So, Catherine, where can people contact you in your practice?
They can either go to our website and it has our phone number, email us at hello@callistametspa.com as well. Our phone number is 714-410-2249.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, Catherine, this is awesome. Thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your message.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Beauty Talk podcast. Any questions, please contact the practice directly with the contact information provided during the show. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.